Hi, welcome back. So having done a few videos on Virgil's Aeneid, I thought we should rewind a little bit and have a little look at Homer's Odyssey. Today's video is going to be all about Homeric heroism in the Odyssey, and is Odysseus really a Homeric hero? So when you read the Homeric epics, it's helpful to read them side by side. Because you might be doing it for a programme of study, it's not always the most practical thing. Homer's Iliad prefaces, in many ways, Homer's Odyssey. The Iliad is the story of the Trojan War, and it sets up a lot of our expectations of what a Homeric hero ought to be, and actually what the drawbacks of being a Homeric hero is. In the Iliad, the primary hero is Achilles, and he is a model of traditional Homeric masculinity. He's a warrior, he's known for feats of strength, and he is essential to winning the Trojan War. He doesn't always demonstrate other good qualities that a modern audience would really be looking for in a hero. So it's important to think about and define ancient heroism versus modern heroism. When we read the Odyssey then, and the Odyssey is all about Odysseus leaving Troy and getting home, we find a very different hero. And so we've got to think, does this match the idea of what a Homeric hero should be? And really, is the idea of a Homeric hero something that modern readers have kind of made up? There are many different types of heroism throughout Homer's epics. I like to think of heroism really as, how does that hero suit or fulfill the plot arc that they're on? Achilles is really there to facilitate the Trojan War drawing to an end and to help the Greeks win at Troy. Odysseus needs to get home. So Odysseus's kind of non-Achillean qualities, if you want to put it like that, like being very cunning, being a bit of a trickster, being polytropos as he's often described, are actually things that perhaps make him a better hero for the Odyssey, even if he wouldn't have been such a great or kind of prevalent hero in the Iliad. He is in the Iliad, he just doesn't have the central role that Achilles seems to have. So when we think about Odysseus as a hero, we've got all this baggage and all these expectations. Let's start to think about then defining the Homeric hero according to the Iliad. One key thing we can expect from Homeric heroes is an Aristeia. Aristeia in Greek literally means the best bits. You can think of an Aristeia like the Sky Sports highlights of a battle scene, and we see this in the Iliad. We have Aristeia scenes in which Achilles runs through the battle and cuts a number of people down. And it's this list, this catalogue of people who fall in battle that really show the prowess of Achilles. Imagine, like any sports personality, Achilles was up for some sort of award. This is the highlight reel they would show. And we see this as a Homeric feature, not just to show the epic scale, but also to highlight he was a hero. Another thing we might think about is leadership. From a modern audience's point of view, leadership is really important to a hero. And if you've read the Aeneid, you might have a particular view of Aeneas developing as a hero. That's actually quite a Roman innovation that we see. In the Iliad, Achilles isn't such a great hero. He's really a foot soldier. He's not able to rally, organise, or think about anybody other than himself. The other soldiers in the Iliad are very inspired by Achilles, but he doesn't necessarily utilise that platform, if you want to call it that, in the best way. For example, in the funeral games for Patroclus, he's not very level-headed. He doesn't award the right prizes to the right people. And actually, Odysseus is almost as lousy of a leader as Achilles is himself. Odysseus leaves the Trojan War, after all, with a group of soldiers, with a fleet of men who have all fought at Troy. They're all war veterans. And by the time he reaches home, they're all dead. And you'll see many instances of this kind of poor leadership coming up throughout his wanderings. So, for example, the Bag of Winds is a classic example of Odysseus being a poor leader. He's unable to trust his men with the knowledge that the bag he's received from the god Aeolus is actually full of winds that would prevent him getting home. And the men open the bag and therefore kind of undo all the benefit of having the bag in the first place. So that lack of trust. And he regularly says to other people that his men are lacking, they're wanting, they're not very bright or they're not very able. And he's very quick to blame his men when the occasion calls for it and it really suits him. So modern heroism, leadership is important. Ancient heroism, not so much. We might also think about when the two men actually meet. So just as Odysseus appeared as a minor character, or not a minor character, but not the hero of the Iliad, as an auxiliary character in the Iliad, Achilles appears in the Odyssey as well. So if you look at the Nicoya scene in Book 11, and a Nicoya means summoning up the ghosts of the dead, we often find a kind of council with the dead in the middle of epics because it provides a good sort of use of flashback. So you might see this in modern films and cinema as, say, dream sequences when people speak to characters that have passed away. And this is really something that Homer did first. So in Book 11 of the Odyssey, Odysseus speaks to Achilles, and this gives us a really interesting rewrite of what heroism is in the Odyssey. Achilles comes up as a shade, and all through the Iliad, the key feature of being a hero, or one key feature of being a hero, is kalos thanatos, a beautiful death, a glorious death. And this comes through in cinematic adaptations of the epics as well. And actually, in Book 11, Achilles says he regrets dying. To give you a quote, "I'd rather slave on earth for another man than rule down here over all the breathless dead." So we see Achilles reimagining and rethinking what it means to be a hero at a really crucial point in the epic. So in Homer's Odyssey, we have a hero who doesn't necessarily show good leadership, but has a very different set of qualities to the traditional Homeric hero of Achilles. Where Achilles is strong, but not necessarily very cunning, Odysseus is wily, and he uses his speech and his stories to prevail in the Odyssey and to get home. Both of them meet the end that they wanted. Achilles gets his beautiful and glorious death, and Odysseus reaches home. So they're each appropriate heroes for the destination of their plots, but they're very, very different from one another. And so we need to think about and argue about whether Homer was presenting different forms of heroism in different kinds of stories. If you want to think about scholarship on the Odyssey, Peter Jones gives a really good summary for this that you can use in exams and in coursework really effectively. He suggests that there are three key ways of thinking about Odysseus: the eternal wanderer, the loyal husband, or the anti-hero. And could Odysseus actually be kind of opposite of Achilles, and what does it mean to be an anti-hero? And there are more than three possible ways. I'm sure you could argue against that really effectively. But when we look at the kind of heroism Odysseus presents, we see that it is very different from Achilles, and we have to decide whether that is actually to Odysseus's detriment or not. So I hope you found that video really helpful. I'm planning to upload future videos on the Odyssey to help you with your studies and keep going with some popular themes. If you like classics, if you're really interested in it, do take a look at my Redbubble store. There are lots of different artworks inspired by the ancient world. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share to keep the channel going. Thank you.